Greetings everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm your host Captain Rye. Today's video comes to us from Derp Amber. And Derp is playing in the Tier 5 French Baguette. Yes, that's right, the Tier 5 French cruiser, the Emile Barton, here in World of Warships. As the battle gets underway, it's the straight map, it's domination match mode, and Derp is spawned closest to the A cap point. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this map, you might not be aware that the teams spawn north and south opposite each other, separated by a line of islands. In standard battle, this can prove to be a bit of a problem because the bulk of the team spawns away from the base. In domination mode, this can prove to be kind of a good thing because that means both teams are already split, so you don't have to worry about overwhelming force showing up at the extreme ends, just at the center. And whichever team generally can get to the B cap point, cap that, has the advantage. This is true in ranked battle, and it is true in standard battle, random battle as well. Now, the Emile Barton Tier 5 cruiser is actually a pretty darn good cruiser. It has reasonably good guns and pretty good armor piercing. As you can see, Derp has already managed to land a couple of citadels on some unfortunate cruisers that decided to turn broadside. The high explosive is also pretty reasonable, and much like the Königsberg, it has 3 turrets with 3 6-inch guns apiece, so 9 6-inch guns total. Unlike the Königsberg, this ship is better suited for attack because its primary 2 turrets are in super firing positions on the bow, versus the opposite on the Königsberg. Now, the French cruisers are also good because they have 9-kilometer torpedoes. So if you're not familiar with these French cruisers, these might catch you off guard, and they certainly caught me off guard the first time I played against them. Those 9-kilometer torpedoes coming in, I thought they would be shorter, like 4, 5, or 6 kilometers, you know, like the rest of the Tier 5 cruisers in the game, but no, 9-kilometer torpedoes, so something to think about. Unfortunately, the Barton doesn't get the speed boost consumable, which you get from Tier 6 up. And that's kind of an important thing to point out here, because the speed boost provides an extra bump of speed. It makes you faster, and it actually makes you a lot harder to hit. There have been plenty of times where I've been playing these ships, and I've had the enemy team try to fire at me, and I've just sailed in a nice straight line and watched all of their shots fall behind. Derp manages to score his first kill in this battle by citadeling that poor unfortunate cruiser, who was, to be fair, on fire, burning, and not long for this world anyway, so the citadel seems kind of redundant. Still though, a kill's a kill, and the enemy team is now down 2 ships to Derp's 1. However, they have the B cap point, they're in the process of capping the C cap point, and while they are contesting the C cap point, Derp's team hasn't managed to secure a cap location, so they're not gaining any points at this moment. And the only reason they're up on points is because they have more kills. The high explosive on the Emile Barton is actually pretty decent for 6-inch high explosive. It does have a reasonable rate of fire, and it's got a reasonable chance for fire, so you can pretty much spam that and set a lot of people on fire. Of course, RNGesus is being fantastic to Derp, just lighting fires over and over again. Friendly Destroyer has laid down a smokescreen, and this is, I think, the second time this particular destroyer has done that. And that is a fantastic team play right there. That's going to go ahead and give Derp an opportunity to basically just chill out in the open, since he doesn't have very good cover anyway, for just a little bit, and take shots out at various targets. Maybe try and set that battleship on fire again, considering he set him on fire once, and that battleship actually put that fire out right away, so kind of surprised that he does that. I have that nervous tick where I like to do that, but I will avoid doing it if I know there's a cheeky cruiser firing high explosive at me. And yes, Derp does manage to set him on fire again, so that fire is going to burn for at least 40 seconds here. Now there are a number of targets to look at here. There's a destroyer that's back over here. who keeps popping in and out of view. There's a number of other ships that have popped up here. That destroyer looks like he might actually run into a torpedo. Holy crap. Congratulations, Derp. You've managed to do something absolutely insane. You managed to torpedo a destroyer and a cruiser from quite a substantial range. That destroyer almost dodged it, but almost doesn't cut it. So at this point, the enemy team is down 3 ships. Again, Derp's team up on points, but only because they have killed more ships. They really need to get in there and capture A, or preferably capture B as well. But you can see how his team is kind of just sitting in the back here. Derp manages to get armor-piercing shots out here at this furry taco, the Furutaka, and he's just ripping him to shreds with citadels, and you can see the kind of damage that this armor-piercing is capable of doing. Now this Furutaka has finally figured out, maybe he should turn away and angle a little bit. The 6-inch guns, as you can see there, will not penetrate the Furutaka's armor when it's angled, so he's going to get a lot of ricochets. That's when you just use the quick reload, switch over to the high explosive, and start spamming away at him with high explosive, because you are going to penetrate. But of course, there are bigger fish to fry. Or, in this case, grill. As Derp switches back over to the high explosive and starts putting shots out at the battleships, who really do love being set on fire. I can attest to that as a battleship player. I love it when you set me on fire. Please note the level of sarcasm. The enemy team has finally pulled the scores back here. You can see there they've killed 3 ships to their 3 losses. Of course, the 3 ships that Derp's team has lost are worth more points, so now the enemy team is definitely up on points, and especially because they've had that cap point for so long, they're way up on points, and since Derp's team hasn't had a cap point, losing 4 ships now, they're way down on points. This could get really, really quite dangerous. Derp manages to earn the Death by Baguette award, which is part of the 2-year anniversary medal campaign. He's got armor-piercing loaded back up, that Furutaka trying to make a run for the safety behind some islands there. Can he connect with him? No, he doesn't quite manage to connect with him. That's a little disappointing, but hey, that Furutaka's still alive. Wow, he's lucky. Derp avoids taking major damage against one of these battleships here, does manage to citadel the Furutaka and finish him off. So that's going to be yet another kill for Derp here. The enemy team has managed to retain the B cap point. It was being contested there for a while. They have managed to retain it, so that's going to be a bit unfortunate for Derp's team. They really did need the enemy team to stop gaining points with the B cap point. However, they have capped the A cap point, so at the very least, Derp's team is going to start gaining those points. Now, Derp's playing it cautiously here. He's staying behind this island, using it as solid rock armor, and he's dropped off detectability, so he's not going to be detected, at least until somebody pops out of line of sight between these islands here. But you notice that this battleship is not paying attention to him. Well, not directly anyway. He's not turning broadside, he's only shooting at him with his forward guns. If you're shooting armor piercing at these ships, the French Baguettes don't have the thickest armor. So a lot of times armor piercing from battleship caliber guns will simply over-penetrate, which is particularly good. So if you are in a French Baguette, one of the best things you can actually do is turn broadside onto a battleship, because he will over-penetrate. However, if you're angled like this, the armor piercing has a tendency to normalize, go through more armor, and then arm, and that ends up not being a good thing. This battleship, however, he's run into some wonderful torpedoes. Derp is getting more torpedoes off. Remember, these ships have torpedo tubes on both sides. They aren't just a destroyer with center line, so you have to pay attention to how close these guys are getting. Fortunately, RNG's Ever the Troll is, giving this battleship shell some spread there, and Derp avoids taking too much major damage at a point-blank range engagement with this battleship. Enemy carrier coming in here with some aircraft. He does have some torpedoes away here. Ooh, these look like they are going to hit. Possibly, Derp's going to use the sinking corpse of his enemy there. Now, unfortunately, he gets a little too far forward. He has a little too much momentum, so he doesn't quite manage to avoid them all, and does get one torpedo there on the bow, but he puts out the flooding pretty quickly. Actually, it doesn't look like he's got his damage repair, so he's still on fire. He's still flooding. This could be very dangerous, and he's got a battleship up here a Wyoming that's not paying attention to him at all. And now his repair is up. He's managed to get the flooding and the fire out, so he's not going to lose any more health here. He's still being detected, though. But look at that. He's managed to earn himself a Kraken Unleashed. Really a good come from behind here, as his team now has a dominating command, a dominating lead in points and with ships. The enemy team just down to 3 ships here. And we know where they are. In fact, the carrier has been spotted. Now, you can fire high explosive at a carrier and set him on fire. That's always a valid tactic. Very important. Keeps the planes on the carrier from taking off or landing. But you can also fire armor piercing, especially with these low tier carriers, these tier 4 and tier 5 carriers. Firing armor piercing, even from 6-inch guns, will cause citadels. If you have battleship caliber guns and you fire armor piercing at something like a Vogue, there's a strong possibility that you may actually citadel him with your high explosive. There is Derp's high caliber for causing enough damage to enough different enemies. But you'll notice he's actually being quite cautious here. He's keeping an island between himself and that Congo, because that Congo really does want to take some shots at him. And Derp's not got a lot of health left. Derp actually does manage to citadel that carrier with, I think, high explosive. He switches over to the armor piercing here. He gets torpedoes out, citadels that carrier again with the armor piercing. Again, that's what I was saying about the armor piercing being a good choice if you're shooting at carriers, especially if you're in a cruiser at low tier. Switches back over to the high explosive, gonna try and set him on fire again. And of course, because the carrier's turning away, might not get the best opportunity for citadels. Most of Derp's shots are now being impacted by the island. Something to pay attention to when you're playing near islands is that your gun camera will only display the island block indicator for the turrets that are currently where the camera is at. So if your camera's on the forward turrets, it might show the island block, but your rear turret can clear. If you're on the rear turret, it won't show the island block, even though your forward turrets won't. Again, Derp manages to citadel that carrier with high explosive. So, low tier, carriers, high explosive, or armor piercing, either one will probably do the job. Derp does not have a lot of health, though, so he does have to be careful here if one of these battleships decides he wants a piece of him. And because they were so low on points for so long, because they lacked those caps, he does have to be careful here, because if he dies, it could give the enemy the opportunity to come back from this. I mean, they still have 3 ships, they still have their carrier, they still have 2 battleships here. And again, Derp is very low health, and if you're a low health cruiser at the end of a game that's as close as this one is turning out to be, staying alive should be your primary priority. So do what Derp is doing here. Get yourself a nice fat island between you and the enemy, something where their guns probably won't manage to clear thanks to their shell arcs, but your guns will. Works really well in American cruisers like the Atlanta. And then simply sit back there, use the concealment offered by sitting back there, and use the solid rock armor to preferably avoid any incoming shots that may end up coming your way if you get spotted. At this kind of range, with a battleship that's bow on, there's no point in firing armor piercing, so high explosive it is. Try and set him on fire, try and burn him down. Now, this battleship was on fire in multiple locations, I believe thanks to the carrier. But there you can see, look, the enemy team has already managed to pull it back even more so. They've managed to keep those points values up as they've managed to kill 2 of Derp's teammates. And so this is what I was saying at the beginning, and what I always say with domination match modes, the team that gets that early base lead, that early points lead, tends to do better at the end. So at this point, the enemy team could still win it, because all they have to do is just find and kill Derp, find and kill other ships, and simply narrow down that points situation. Now this battleship, though, he's not having a good day. Look, he's on fire in at least 2 locations. Derp's still putting shots out at him. They're shattering, unfortunately, but, I mean, just look at the amount of damage this guy's taken, and now he's finally dead, so Derp doesn't manage to get the kill on that from the fires. A little disappointing there. You can see there, battleship takes shots at another battleship, and that battleship got kind of lucky. Those shots really just bracketed him. Now, the enemy team down to 2 ships. They still have their carrier, and the carrier is a much softer target, and if they can kill the carrier, they're golden. They won't have to worry about planes spotting them. When you're low health like this, and you have carriers in the game, it really does come down to being a significant issue for you, because really all that carrier has to do is just get close to you, spot you, and then everybody on the enemy team is going to want a piece of you because, well, you can be killed very easily. I mean, a high explosive shell from that battleship, an armor-piercing shell from that battleship, even an over-penetration, would probably finish Derp off. So you have to be very careful here. You'll notice that he's moving into position, but he's not opening up yet. He really doesn't want to open up until he's secure in his positioning, so that if he does start taking fire, he's in a position to either dodge it, quickly duck behind something or somebody, or so that when he opens fire, he's not going to be immediately detected. Now you can see here, friendly destroyer is just trying to put shots out and finish him off. Now Derp opens up here, and he opens up because, as you can see there, he was detected briefly, but now the enemy is behind islands, so he's no longer directly detected. That carrier very low health. Derp does manage to land some shots, doesn't set him on fire though, kind of disappointed there, but you can see he is being targeted, and again, as the ships drop back and forth between these islands, the detection is on and off. Now that battleship was targeting him, decided to target somebody else. The aircraft carrier is now dead, and now there's just 1 ship left, and Derp's team is now in the process of capping C. If I were the destroyer, I would stop firing my guns, and I would simply just sit in the C cap point and try my level best to hide there. But enemy CV has got his aircraft still over there, because I believe he tried to torpedo that destroyer. So because he tried, those planes are going to be spotting you no matter what, and really all that battleship has to do is pick on the people who are at the C cap point and keep resetting the cap. He'll earn himself some nice fat XP, win or lose, but he could also still theoretically win this because he's a battleship, and as you can see there, he manages to take out the cruiser that was sitting at sea. So there goes 1 ship. If he decides he wants a piece of Derp, he could take out Derp easily as well, and that would just leave 2 ships. He's low enough health that the destroyer could probably take him out with torpedoes if the destroyer is a good destroyer player. And the destroyer player is a reasonably good destroyer player because you can see he stayed in the cap long enough to secure it without leaving it, but still got close enough to get torpedoes away at that battleship. And that battleship at this point is basically just riding the border, kind of probably hoping he can just ride out to the very end, and there really isn't a lot of time left in this battle anyway. However, not having any caps now does mean that the enemy team, or in this case Derp's team, is going to gain those points and probably win. Unfortunately, torpedoes from that destroyer don't quite have enough range to reach that battleship. A little unfortunate there. The enemy team and Derp's team are very close on points, so any shots that you take at this point could be disastrous, and I wouldn't have recommended it. I know there's that temptation to get those points in here, but because the points difference is so close, taking shots out, revealing your position could result in getting nailed. And as you can see there, priority target says that battleship is targeting him, and why not? He's incredibly low health. Not much of a hit would probably finish Derp off right away. Now that battleship gets set on fire, he immediately puts it out. The question is this guy going to get shots out before the end of this battle? Now, he's still being targeted. What's this battleship going to do? Nope, it doesn't matter. Time's out. Game is won. Derp's team victorious here. And look at that, Derp. 145,000 damage done in a Tier 5 maximum battle in an Emile Barton Confederate Kraken high caliber death by Baguette. And, of course, with a score like this, you would expect Derp to be top of the team for XP earned, and you would be absolutely correct, as he ends up with over 2,000 base XP, almost double the next nearest player on his team, and double the next nearest player on the enemy team. Anyway, That's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe and follow button, leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and the channel, I encourage you to do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. Patreon supporters will receive additional perks and benefits. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play various games live, you can do so by following me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.